comes over.
He told me.
Yeah.
For X amount of years. But in theory,
It's like, oh, okay. It's not like
he was supposed to load the price of the
you
property
know.
to attract businesses, and he would get it back by tax.
killing me.
Higher out.
I know, it's like, I didn't get it. It's like such a mess, and they open up the door.
Well, yeah, then he goes in the building,
Yeah.
and you live all this way, kind of
Oh,
just
yeah.
sucks it
Some
right
sort
into
of,
the leaf.
I could have sold it for this, but to get the Apple store, I had to sell it to this, but I'm gonna get recouped on the sales.
Well, we're getting an Apple store?
Does that get shared with Loveland? Franzen doesn't?
Loveland has the same deal on their side.
I got no phone.
Okay.
Holy cow.
So it looks like
Like 5 cameras
like
on
40%, is
Depending on the
that
size
across
of
the
the
road?
building,
11.
Depends on what?
the size of
Phone
the
11.
store or the building that gets on.
And then little company. Big company.
Yeah, I thought it
You know, I
was
went to my
much
son, like, my microphone doesn't work on his phone. I went to that, I was taking it. We went to T-Mobile, and they're like, oh, well, upgrade to that for $600. It was just,
especially because it's like one of the hottest intersections in the should be in.
so it was like a week.
We can bring a warranty if needed. Incentives.
But yeah, I did get a good deal.
I'm downloading.
Oh, did you?
We had it for a long time, it went pretty well. And then Julie got pissing off about a replacement.
Wow.
No.
We like to.
Yes.
And everyone loved it.
I think T-Mobile
So
and.
we're getting a new tower in town. They put that one over on the other side of
That's right.
925.
I've never had a problem.
So like, yeah, so like our district manager, the farmers lives over there. What else? Whatever was on the city should be.
The ones are like the north side of town.
You have a copy now?
I mean, redistricting the boundaries for our.
I was taking those old pictures, it doesn't even want to.
Crazy to a small size of population.
Yeah, each one has to be 85% of the highest district. The number of voters.
Only every 4 years.
Yeah, right.
You know where all the secret hiding places are, yes.
It's the number, don't forget, it's the number of citizens, the number of voters in each district. Registered voters,
Yeah, it couldn't be citizens or something.
well, eligible voters.
Does it vote to redistrict?
Still not up there.
We vote, not the people.
It's us.
It doesn't? So when does it take effect?
I'll use your paper.
It's before the
Next
I
election.
election.
have to, but.
So you have new constituents before the election? Interesting.
It's like,
I'm sure that question will come up later.
You gotta see, I got a couple lines under the tavern. It's my own map.
no,
Gerrymandering?
I had, get ready for RTA meeting tomorrow, and
What's going on with you said?
lots of unexpected things.
I called, and up and said, you make one or two, which one would you rather me have? I said, this one.
More people than I was expecting.
Yeah, Charlotte probably did this in the upstairs chambers, but we'll make them do that next year. So.
I got extra chairs up front. You still
Up front?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Actually, you're outside the camera view up there.
Oh,
You're just under the camera.
This feels really weird. Okay, so we're going to get started with tonight's Town Board Work Session for October 21, 2019. The goal of the work session is to have the Town Board receive information on topics of town business and we've got a variety of different folks who are going to be presenting us on several different topics this evening. We do have 4 items on the agenda this evening. So members of the public, generally we don't call on you to participate, but if you are so inclined, then we ask that you first be recognized before participating in any discussions of the town board. So with that, our first agenda item this evening is the Downtown Development Authority budget discussion. And I believe Matt Ashby, Director, is going to kick us off. But maybe what we should do is maybe go around the room and just make introductions to make sure everybody knows all the parties that are here this evening.
My name is Matt Ashby. I am the Executive Director of the Windsor Downtown Development Authority, and I'll turn it over to Dan Staus, our Chairman.
I'm Dan Staus, the chairman.
I try to make things easy.
Did you guys rehearse that?
Why doesn't Matt just introduce everybody?
Yeah, we'll be here all week.
I am Barry Wilson, Town Board.
David Zaslowski, Town Board.
Tom Jones, Town Board.
Paul Rennemeyer, Town Board. This is Brett Finney.
Dan Brown, DDA Board. Miles Baker, Windsor Town Board.
Ken Bennett, Windsor Town Board. Dean Kaler, DDA Board.
And Christy Melendez, Mayor of Windsor.
Dean Moyer, Director of Finance for Windsor.
Okay, let's also go around in the outskirts to find out who else is joining us.
Outskirts.
Someone start with that.
I'm Kelly Hall.
Jose Valdez, Windsor Housing Authority.
Carl Gannon, Town of Windsor. Chris Nelson, Windsor Housing Authority.
Justin Shireman, intern with the Town Attorney's Office.
Frankie Cole, Windsor Housing Authority.
Jeff Fennis, Loveland Housing Authority.
Dave Lingle, Loveland Housing Authority.
Ian McCarter, Town Attorney.
Nancy Salazar, Windsor Housing Authority.
Darcy McClure, Loveland Housing Authority.
Okay. Okay, so Matt, tell us about, or are you gonna help us, or are you gonna kick us? Okay, Dan, you kick us off.
Well, now you know who I am, thanks. Thanks, man. Welcome and thank you for your great attendance tonight. I know giving up an evening is valuable and I really appreciate this. And I'd like to welcome you here because we are really excited as a DDA because we are seeing the fruits of our labor, the visions that we've had coming into reality. And not only, I don't know if you've had a chance to go visit the Windsor Mill, we just had a meeting there before. That has been probably our biggest catalyst project. And throughout the years of our starting our DDA, we had questions to us like, well, what are you guys going to do with money? Where are you going with this? We started the feasibility study years ago and met with the owner of the mill, Ron Lauer, brought him together with the possibilities of what can this be for this town. And not only for the future of the town, but also the history of this town and preserving the history, because we think that is so very important in part of our mission statement. Working with Ron and Matt did a fantastic job. We couldn't have done it without the help of the town and the town board and the town staff and the mayor. It has been a partnership that has been a pleasure to work with. Not only as a DDA chairman, but also as a citizen of this town and also as a business owner. I mean, I feel very fortunate that I am in this town as a resident, but also as a business owner, because it is truly a partnership that goes in a positive direction. There isn't the bickering that you hear about with other towns and other DDAs. I mean, we have a great relationship and we are very happy to be working with the town board and the town staff and just are very appreciative. We have a great, exciting projects for the future too that Matt will touch on. And not only more development, because with the mill project and what we're going to be talking about tonight, we're retaining 65% of the DDA property that we have acquired. And we're really trying to be great stewards of the future of Windsor downtown, not only adhering to our mission statement and creating the atmosphere that Matt is going to be talking about, and you see on our brochure, and the what we want to do for the wayfinding, which Matt will be talking about, but also with what we want to develop as being a destination spot for Windsor. And so it's really exciting that way, but also the events that we have planned for the people who have been here and had businesses for 25 years, 30 years. I've had my business for 27 years here in Windsor, and as a DDA, one arm of us is, you know, creating our mission statement, creating a destination spot, you know, having a hand in helping with development, but also helping the businesses that are here, and what events can we do. And so we're expanding that area, and Matt will talk about that, and I'm very excited about that also. So without any, I don't want to steal everything that Matt's going to be talking about, but I want to introduce Matt. And we are very fortunate also to have a great executive director. And I've told him this, and I've told his bosses this, and I expect a better Christmas present. But the great thing about working with AIRS is Matt brings a staff of support staff of environmental help. And you can talk about that, the people that you have on your staff, a new member from Loveland. It is a great relationship that we have with our executive director too, so we're very fortunate as a town and as a DDA to have Matt.
And Dan, before you sit down, we want to present this Downtown Colorado Award. It's the Governor's Award for Downtown Excellence, and this it was awarded to the DDA and the town jointly for our efforts in revitalizing downtown. A lot of that was based off of the efforts with the mill, and the upcoming backlot discussions weighed heavily on this award being given to Windsor DDA and the town of Windsor. So we want to share this with you all, and thank you so much for that partnership that really is generating great results. So, Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you. I'll make note of it at our next regular scheduled board meeting as well.
Fantastic.
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
So just to, and thanks Dan, just to go through a few of the highlights, and I apologize for the printing snafu. It didn't quite flip the way that we had wanted to, so some of you have two parts. We will be reprinting these to make sure that they are one card. But some of the highlights of the year in review that we wanted to make sure to bring out include the fact that there's at least 6 new businesses within the downtown district that have been joined the district in the last year. And we've also got 3 new businesses that are queuing up for next year that are in various stages of arrival, construction, leasing, and I think some of them haven't even been announced yet. So that's exciting, and we will be sure to share that with you when we can. The next item is 28 Hidden Elves. So our elf hunt is in support of Small Business Saturday, and our store owners are loving that event because it's getting people into the businesses, which is really one of the jobs of supporting our businesses that the DDA brings to the community. We also created 7 spotlight videos to spread the news on social media about some of our different offerings downtown. We also have, and Dan talked a lot about making downtown a destination, and we wanted to share with you the Downtown Destination brand. We've got 1,000 of these stickers that are going out into area businesses to really promote to folks that may be coming to Windsor for the first time because of the mill, that there's a whole lot of other great things in this community as well. So making sure people understand and have an idea about downtown Windsor as a destination. Construction investment. At least $12.5 million has been invested in the last year in downtown. And a great portion of that is in the Windsor Mill. But there are other projects, the Franzen Pittman headquarters in the old Ricky B's, other names for that building?
The Duke.
The Duke. So everybody knows it as something else, but moving forward, it'll be the Franzen Pittman office. So good to see that space activated after several years of dark building there. The backlot progress is moving forward, and certainly the town board will be interested to know that the agreements are now in Brinkman's hands. They are working through those through their legal systems, and will be giving us a response on any items that they may have any concerns or changes or things like that. So that project is moving forward and progressing, and you probably will have agreements before you in a couple of weeks, we hope. To get that project moving forward. Again, that project is about $22 million in investment. So Certainly a huge leap forward for the downtown potentially in 2020. We just got done hosting the Colorado Main Street staff members from the Department of Local Affairs for our annual check-in with their team. And I'm pleased to say that we've leveraged about $45,000 of services from our relationship with Colorado Main Street. So it's pretty phenomenal when you think about that number and how that fits into the overall budget picture of the DDA, that we're able to capture that amount of investment from the state. And then the final item on there is that Governor's Award. And certainly we share that with the town because we have had an outstanding partnership, and certainly couldn't have made the progress without the town being supportive of the Downtown Development Authority's efforts. So just a few highlights, and like I said, we're going to get more of these printed so that if you want to share those with your constituents, you have the ability to tell folks a little bit of what's going on downtown. So the purpose of us being here tonight is to talk about the budget for next year and to give you a snapshot of where we think we're headed. So we did do a little bit of a look back, but I do want to make sure, and Christy, Mayor, did the board get the story behind the THO during their tour? No. Okay.
No.
So the name on the grain silo outside the mill is THO, and that was one of the famous breeding stock that was here in the community years and years and years ago, and it was one of the most prolific bulls that basically many of the cows and calves in the community were a product of this sire. And I saw that, and the developer was telling that story, and I thought, my gosh, that's so applicable to this project, because what we call the mill project is a catalyst. And as a catalyst, we see it spinning off other great things in the community. And I thought how appropriate that is to have THO front and center as far as our catalyst project. And we do see great things happening, even in just the few weeks that the mill has been open. There are more people coming to town. There is an excitement that is palpable in the community and downtown because of this project. And so we want to celebrate that with you all as partners and hopefully look forward to other great things. So a quick look back on some of our 2019 objectives. Several of those are listed on the card here. But as part of our downtown development approach, we use the 4-point Main Street approach, which helps us to organize our activities. And those include design, organization, economic vitality, and marketing. So those are the 4 areas that we focus our efforts into as far as buckets go. So the first one is about design and beautification. So making downtown irresistible and improving our buildings and streetscapes. So we have, in this effort, created this year a small facade improvement program. So previously we have budgeted $120,000 for facade improvements for building owners to take advantage of. We've seen Chimney Park Restaurant, Hearth, the bicycle shop take advantage. Folks, Hayden Outdoors has taken advantage of that program. But we saw that it was mostly larger projects taking advantage of those funds, and we wanted to make sure that they were accessible to some of the smaller business owners and for smaller projects. And so we have launched the small FIP program to hopefully encourage more people to get involved in taking advantage of that offering. We did corner plantings at 5th and Main Street, so refresh those planting beds. And that was through a grant from Colorado Main Street. The streetscape has been extended by the mill, and what a difference that makes. Crosswalk signs have been installed. I believe there's 24 new signs highlighting the fact that we want people to stop when folks are approaching the crosswalks. So we're working to figure out the management bugs on that installation. And then the Ricky B's new business and the facade improvements happening there. those folks are doing that on their own dime without participating in the facade improvement program. So that's great to see that investment taking place even without us having to leverage those investments. Second point is organization and rallying the troops, and the Governor's Award is certainly a great recognition for all of us in this room that have been working on downtown development. We've also worked to enhance our social media presence by providing a social media calendar and basically programming materials to go out on a consistent basis. And so that's been a really positive thing for alerting folks to what's going on downtown. We've had a lot of media coverage, and certainly the mill has been a lot of the focus of that, but we also did host Senator Cory Gardner for a walkthrough of downtown, and it was great to be able to share some of the ideas that we have and some of the needs that the community has with him in the community. We've also done What's Brewing Downtown, and that's opportunity for folks to meet with members of the DDA and myself over coffee and just have a conversation about what's going on. So we've gotten a lot of good feedback through those sessions. Vitality is really about promoting business and development. So the mill is a huge accomplishment. The backlot design progress, I think, is pretty phenomenal in terms of how many moving pieces are associated with that. I do want to thank Ian for his efforts in helping clear the alley title process. So there was a strip of land in the back lot there that we didn't know who owned it. And so going through those legal hoops took a lot of time, and Ian, thank you for your efforts in making that happen. That allows us to move forward with some design concepts for activating that alley in the future. We also worked on a cottage plan for the block 6th to 7th Street in activating that and bringing that into the district a little bit more. Lodging taxes were initiated, discussion was initiated on that topic. We'll also be working on the demolition of the buildings on the 512 Ash, formerly known as the Birch parcel, in preparation for transitional parking lot to be built in that location. And additionally, we did have the conditional use approval from the town board on that block as well. So lots of development concepts moving forward in the past year. Marketing, the goal is to bring people downtown, and we've got the Small Business Saturday and the Elf Hunt, which have become very popular. We did create promotional videos for businesses as well as advertisements in the NOCO Guide, which is a tourist magazine telling folks what we have to offer. The destination branding is launching here shortly, and also supporting the farmers market. So again, the goal is bringing people downtown so that they can get to experience Windsor and hopefully spend some money in our shops. So that's a little bit of looking back. Envisioning the future for 2020, our financial position, estimated rollover through the end of the year is about $635,000. Estimated 2020 revenues are about $520,000. And I want to make sure to point out a couple of things. The light blue on the left-hand side of the pie chart there represents the amount of base sales tax that the town provides us through the IGA. And as you can see, that is still the largest portion, nearly half of our estimated revenues. So I think any board member will tell you what an important part of our operations that IGA is, and what that provides us, the tools and ability to do is pretty phenomenal. Our mill levy is at 5 mills, and that is the highest we can assess under the DDA statutes, and that generates about projected to generate about $41,000. The property tax increment is projected to be up at $76,000 with grants and other. So grants, the $7,400 reflected here is actual cash grants. that we receive. The rest of the amounts from the Colorado Main Street program are in-kind or technical services that they do provide us. And then the retail sales tax increment is at about $140,000, an increase of about $8,000 from last year. Yes, sir.
Is part of the $635,000 the $500,000 for the mill? Has that been?
At this point, I have anticipated that we are paying that out before the end of the year.
So that's not included?
So that's not including that. But that does move some things around of other costs that we had previously anticipated, which I'll get to in the next slide. I'll pause there. Any other,
Yeah,
other questions?
just on the ones that are labeled increment, the property tax, I guess, and the retail tax.
Yes.
So was this a TIF structure then? You got an increment, you guys get an increment above?
It is, that's correct, yes. So effectively, the property tax increment of $76,000 is based off of 2011 when the DDA was established. And so that is the amount that it has grown since 2011.
So that's an agreement with the town too?
The property tax increment is, I believe by statute, through the DDA.
As a special?
As a
Special
special,
district, yeah.
It's within the charter of the DDA that was created.
And the retail tax increment was part of the original, I guess, founding agreement between the town and the DDA, that would be amount dedicated to the DDA.
Yeah, I thought, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this slide? Okay. So moving on, we've got our work plan status, and we can go ahead and hand that out. I think I've got about 15 of those, but what we do every year is we go through and we make a pretty detailed work plan of the things that we want to accomplish in the coming year, and that is broken out into those 4 points: design and beautification, organization, vitality, marketing. But we also try to break out key initiatives. And for years, the mill was one of our primary key initiatives, and we are seeing that cycle out, which is fantastic to be able to check off most of the items from that list. And but we're adding a few others, including the Bruner development as one of our new focus initiatives, as well as the Cosner properties. So property owner has bought several new properties in the from 6th Street to 7th Street, and we want to just make sure to open communication channels with that individual to make sure that we can partner with him effectively. The backlot development is probably one of our largest initiatives as far as complexity and things like that. So we will be working on the alley behind the 400 block as one of our primary concepts for the coming year. So completing the concept and design plans for that enhanced alley, which would be similar to the alleys in Fort Collins, where you've got either a cobblestone or a stamped concrete walk, possibly some overhead lighting, consolidated trash containers, really making, what's that? Oh, and underground of the utilities is moving forward as well. That's an important component of that project. And so a lot of moving parts with that. We do have conversations going on right now with Excel to get the undergrounding done, and we're also working on a DOLA energy impact grant to help pay for the construction, or at least part of the construction of that alley. Questions?
Well, talk a little bit more about the funding for getting the utilities underground.
Yes, so there is currently a program through the town of Excel where a portion of money is dedicated to that fund with every project that's built. And so there is money available within that fund to basically pay for the undergrounding of the utilities. And our goal is to use that value as a match for the DOLA grant to be able to help reduce the overall cash amount that we would have to be on the hook for
It would
that
not be
grant.
100% though, right? It'd be
I believe it's a 50% match.
50% match, but DOLA and Excel would not cover 100% of the cost. Is that correct?
But we have an underground funding, what do we call it?
That's what I did.
Credit.
We have a credit program,
Okay.
has probably over $1 million in there,
Okay, so we-
that the town committed
Okay.
over 8 years ago to the DDA and the project when
So
they,
we would use some of that
when they
funds to
move
help with
forward, that they would have
That's what I
access.
understood.
And so I think I think between that and the DOLA grant, we can get that paid for pretty much.
Yeah,
That's an important piece to get that
yeah.
going.
Yeah, the initial estimates, construction-wise, that I have are,
Okay.
the estimate I got was not real precise, but the Excel gentleman said between 100 and 200,000 for that block
Okay.
was what he was estimating at this point, so
Okay.
should be hopefully sufficient funds available.
Good.
So, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
when you reference the Bruner Development, Costner Properties, where is the Bruner Development? Is that the Bruner Building right here on Main?
So,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it refers to property currently owned by Bruners, which is their property on Main Street, but they also own a bunch of lot behind it. They own the liquor store on the corner, and then there's that other building on the corner. I think they kind of reference that all, lump that all into.
These folks are members of the DDA already, I assume?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just for strengthening those relationships?
Exactly, and making sure that they're aware that we're here and what we can offer and how to work with them as we have other large developers in the district in the past, so. Sustainability is always an item of concentration for the DDA, so making sure that the moves that we are making are leading towards increased sustainability as ongoing efforts to make sure that we can continue doing great things in the community. And so, we are about halfway through the current IGA with the town, intergovernmental agreement with the town. And we want to make sure to highlight that as a potential task item for the future is where does that go? Is that something that we need to talk about in this coming year as well? So, any other questions on the work plan? All right. So a couple of the initiatives just to hire, just to give you some insights into the details in this document. We are looking at targeted business recruitment. So there's a number of conversations that happen just about every DDA meeting of, gosh, wouldn't it be great to have this type of business in the district or in Windsor, period. And so we want to focus some attention on a process for working with our other town partners in attracting targeted businesses into the DDA. We're also looking at a streetscape assessment, so identifying the resources that we have currently as far as streetscape goes, what items are solid to continue moving forward with and build upon, and other items that we might want to add to the overall streetscape in Windsor. As I mentioned before, the extension of the IGA with the town being another focus. And then also the Green Main Streets pilot program. DOLA has an initiative coming forward that I'm not sure they know exactly what the parameters of the program might be, but it would be working with both private building owners to improve energy efficiency, as well as having the potential of some of the public resources, streetlights, other elements like that, to identify if there are other green incentives that can be provided. So I would say that this is something that the board was interested in leaving the door open for the opportunity to explore how that might benefit our community. All right, so on deck, the 2020 budget, and we've got that passed around. So, shift here. So draft budget highlights. We've got the backlot incentives. So this was kind of to the question of the rollover funds. Last year, we did have the funds identified for either purchase of the Legion or participation with the Legion, facilitating that move. As that has changed as far as that plan goes, we are now working on an agreement with Brinkman whereby the town and DDA would have a partnership. We are looking at effectively budgeting for about half of the DDA share of the incentive for the backlot project. The first phase of it, as was discussed previously. And so rolling in, that is probably the single largest line item within the DDA's planned budget next year. The 512 Ash transitional parking is at $65,000. Facade Program is unchanged at its $120,000 level. Again, that is one of our signature projects, and we are earmarking $10,000 of that for those smaller projects, which could be more maintenance related, sprucing up, things like that that some of the smaller businesses could take advantage of. The wayfinding installation. We are progressing towards completing a wayfinding plan. We've had some hiccups with that, with the contractor, causing some delays, unfortunately. But we'll be looking to wrap that up here soon, and are looking to bite off a pretty large portion of the installation costs of the wayfinding program. So looking forward to that installation. Contract services has increased from last year's budgeted amount, but a large portion of that is for the alley construction plans. Right now we are in the design concept phase, but in order to have actual construction plans to actually bid out for construction of that project is about $100,000 on a $1.5 to $1.8 million estimated project cost. We're also budgeting $20,000 as match for the town in the parking study. So looking at future parking needs in the downtown area. So we've got that completed. And the remainder of that contract services allows us to provide for other services that might be needed over the course of the year as we come across projects that need more information and effort. So minimal change to public relations, although I will say we did add funds to public relations to look at adding another event in downtown, the Chocolate Walk, to do something in February, which is kind of a cold, dreary month, but a lot of times retailers are looking to stimulate business after the holidays, and so looking to launch that type of an event that would again draw people into the businesses during that slower time of year. Additional studies and board development are also fairly similar to previous years. So I will go ahead and pause at this point for any questions.
Matt, on the facade program, does that require a match from the owner?
It does, it does.
What is that?
We will pay up to 25% of the investment, up to $20,000 per face of the building that faces a public right-of-way. So for instance, the Hearth project has 3 faces because it does face an alley on the backside, and Main Street and 5th Street. So that received $60,000 years ago, several years ago when that project came through.
Okay, thanks.
Yes,
So did they fix up the alley facing facade on there?
they did.
I didn't get that. Yeah. So it has to actually apply to each.
We're a little flexible in working with property owners just because the improvements may not be equal across all the faces, but we try and work with the owners to do what's right. So.
They have to submit a plan to us for approval too, so that we have a say in that project.
And right next to that, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Right next to that, that Windermere Real Estate Building, was that, did they participate in this?
Windermere did not.
It's
No.
nice, they did a nice job.
Yeah, which is an exciting thing, when you're not having to invest
Right.
resources into making great things happen, similar to Franzen Pittman, where they've, and I guess Blue Ocean owns that building, where they are just doing the improvements without the public incentive.
What kind of business is Franzen Pittman? What do they?
They are a general contractor,
Okay.
so their primary northern Colorado offices will be in that location.
Oh.
So, and that'll be 2/3 of the building, I think. So there's another business anticipated to be next door, which I'm really excited about.
You'll love it.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Couple of questions. Back lot and the alley. And we as a board have not seen the latest proposal on the Brinkman project. We haven't seen that whole plan yet. Originally, that was going to be part of the Brinkman, the alley.
Yeah.
And what you're saying now is the DDA is going to pay $100,000 for some type of alley improvement with the anticipation that's
Yeah.
future.
Let me give you a
Yeah,
little
talk a little
bit
bit
more
about-
detail. So the
Okay.
alley,
Yeah.
correct, was a part of the
Gas.
original big picture Brinkman
Right.
development.
Right.
We've now limited the scope of that
Okay.
to the Public Works lot and the 4th Street properties.
Yeah. We
Um,
haven't seen that.
And so,
Well, we did, but you missed that meeting,
Did
I
I?
think. You missed that meeting. You were
You
not
guys
at
had a
that
meeting
meeting
without
when
me?
we kind of saw.
I tell you,
There was a motion, there was a
I'm
motion
sorry, I'm
to
sorry,
approve.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
So the,
These guys go without me.
the 400 block would still,
Okay.
the DDA would retain the
Okay.
400 block.
Yeah,
DDA would retain the 500 block, 512
Okay.
ash, and the town would retain a pad site on the Public Works block.
okay.
So as Dan mentioned, essentially, we as public agencies are retaining 65% of the land that was originally
The idea
contemplated.
is that, because there were some original concepts for that alley, the idea is that the DDA would go ahead and do that part
Correct.
so that we're prepared for whatever future might be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Is that the total cost, $100,000?
100,000 is the construction plans.
That's construction plans?
Yes, yeah.
Gotcha.
So the total cost is 1.5 to 1.8
That's,
million.
okay, all right, that helps me.
Yeah.
I had one other question. In here, you talked about traffic on Main Street. And, CDOT did feasibility study about potential rerouting 392 and 257. They basically said that wouldn't make much difference in downtown. There's some other options about urbanization that could maybe change the look of Main Street. Plus, I think by February, the board will be getting our transportation master plan report. Okay, so as you're looking at, Matt, how much, when you're talking about improvements, streetscaping, that's where I'm going with this. What assumptions are you making about the future of Main Street?
Well,
Do you have a crystal ball?
good-
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a great question. We had that conversation in our strategic planning
Okay.
retreat of, there are a lot of moving pieces
Mhm.
as far as
There really are.
streetscape goes. And so our first step is to work with Colorado Main Street
Okay.
to provide an assessment of what we currently have on Main Street so that we have a clear picture of what's there, where do we have deficiencies, where do we have other plans maybe that have already been put in place that have good ideas. How do we knit everything together? And so rather than, because we had a streetscape plan as one of our goals last year,
Right.
or this year, and there's been a lot going on, we didn't get to it, but in thinking about everything that's been going on as far as the CDOT information and some of the other projects that we've got going on, we thought the assessment would be a prudent step forward
Yeah.
to really get everything out on the table and give us an idea collectively of where should we go from here.
Right.
So next year at this time, I probably will be including a full streetscape plan as part of the budget.
Okay.
Well, and now that we have the parking study too, I think it behooves
Right,
us
that helps.
to
That helps
delay
with
that a while till we get that study out
I
as
agree, that was
well.
my concern about, my thing is always lack of patience, okay? So I can't believe I'm saying we need to be patient, see if there are some transportation changes that might impact what we do. I hate to
Right.
spend money, yours or ours or anyone's, on streetscaping, but a year from now, maybe it's a little different, I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't have a crystal ball and all.
I would say we're on the
So many
same
floating
page.
pieces, okay.
Exactly,
Okay.
because, we
Yeah.
could plow forward with a wonderful streetscape plan that says everything that we want to do as far as a vision.
Right.
But I think making this half step forward of
Right.
what do we have
Yeah.
really makes a lot of sense to make us more informed to move forward in an intelligent
And with
way.
the parking study also. yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask really quick about the facade improvement grants. Some of the businesses we named, Windermere, Franzen Pittman, some of these businesses that haven't asked for funds or didn't want to go through that process. Can you expand on that a little bit more? Are they not, are they not aware of the program? Are they not wanting to jump through the hoops? Is it conditions that are on the grant that they don't want to have to,
Yeah.
it behooves me as to why they wouldn't want to if it's there. Not that I'm trying to get the taxpayer money to kick in on something where they're willing to do it, but it kind of made me wonder why some businesses have asked and some haven't, or
Yeah.
et cetera.
To kind of cut to the chase of your question, we have gone through a process to identify, are there any streamlining opportunities that we can put in place? And we have revised our requirements since the program was created to help address that issue. I think with the Franzen Pittman Blue Ocean building at Ricky D's, we did provide them with a pretty thorough explanation of how the funds could be applied. I think they just elected not to use them because they were on a tighter time frame and wanted to move forward more quickly than could happen with the involvement of the DDA, because we do have process and forms and approvals to go through. The other thing that I would say is a key point of our larger facade program projects is that we do retain a easement on the facades to basically enable public funds to be invested on private property. So that is how we are able to invest the DDA's funds into those properties. And that may be something that folks are maybe, weighing the pros and cons of having that involvement. So the idea there is that we have the ability to make sure that the investment is maintained over time. And I don't have the number off the top of my head of how long that easement is, but it's a number of years. So,
It makes sense, I just hadn't heard that before, so I appreciate you explaining that.
certainly, yes.
Matt, is there going to be any discussions, and this applies mainly to the merchants in the 400 block? Now that the Brinkman plans have been altered a little bit, maybe that property between those businesses and the track could wind up being parking. But some of these businessmen are griping because their customers are griping because they have to back out into Main Street in mid-traffic. So I guess what I'm getting at is, you think there'll be any discussions of having these merchants improve the back of their buildings to make them the entryway? They'll be parking out there unimpeded by the traffic on Main. And I know it'd be a major undertaking for some of those businesses.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes sense if this traffic situation is going to continue. I talked to someone in the 500 block too, right near the Duke. And they're looking for another place for their business already, because they say, this is not going to work with that situation. So,
Well, to answer your first question of will there be additional discussions, guaranteed there will be additional discussions on parking. We do have the parking study that's coming up to try and identify what the actual perception is and what the actual usage of parking is, so that we have some more detail and information on what the situation is actually happening out there. To address your second question about the alley and entrances from the backside, That really is one of the primary goals of the alley improvements project is, as you've seen in several of the alleys in Fort Collins, there are some businesses that they only have an entrance off the alley. And that it is so successful in providing a positive environment that they feel that they can do business without even having a front door that faces a public street with just the alley access. So it really is an important part of providing an alternative to folks to have that access off the rear. And then as far as the ongoing parking discussions, we do have the 512 Ash Street as the transitional parking. We are identifying that as transitional in terms of it is a piece of the parking solution. And I think the parking study will start to identify other options that we might have to be able to address the parking situation. In a kickoff meeting that we had with town staff, just sitting around the table, we went around and had 4 or 5 different quick fix ideas of things that we might look at to be able to add some additional parking at relatively low cost. I think the difficulty with structured parking is that it's anywhere from $25,000 to $35,000 per space. And so, you know, that is a major, major investment. And so we want to certainly exhaust any other options that we have before we get to that point. But I think that parking study is an important move forward to be able to identify at least some short-term steps that we can take to improve situation.
Here's the facade schedule, the year schedule. It depends on the number amount.
Oh, great.
On the dollar amount.
So back to the facade easement, under 25,000 is 5 years, under 50,000 is 10 years, to 100,000 is 15 years, and then to 200,000 is 20 years. Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah.
I guess one comment, and just chatted about it, but on the facade program, just threw out the idea of whether as part of the improvement or as part of the grant, there be a sort of architectural theme that is kind of almost mandated that says, hey, if you want to do your facade, great, but we're trying to make it look like this.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd ask the DDA to kind of consider that. On the budget specifically?
Can I answer? Or
Downtown corridor plan.
Yeah, so we do have a downtown corridor plan and some guidelines that are not super character specific, but there are some points that we do check off as far as reviewing any of the facades that come in for DDA participation. Now, anybody that does their own thing,
They do their own thing.
They do their own thing, but the DDA does see the project drawings and does go through and kind of make sure that it does hit the mark on several design concepts. Again, it's not specific to character so much as it is things like wanting to make sure there's windows and weather protection, awnings and things like that. So.
Well, I think even having gone through this process before the DDA was ever created, planning actually gets involved with the downtown corridor plan. So even if they're doing their own thing, you still have to stick to some of those requirements actually.
Yeah.
And then looking at this, I'm sort of looking, you've got the 3 years of actual 2019 budget, and particularly on the 2019 budget anyway, at the ending balance of $15,000 had to make you swallow hard.
Yes.
Except it looks like from prior years, I'm guessing your budget never showed the ending balances of 650, 860, and 1.3. So I'm guessing you end up either more revenue than anticipated, more likely, or an expense didn't occur that year that floated.
Correct. The initial concepts of the IGA and the town providing the $250,000 base each year.
Yeah.
Initially, that was to help the DDA build up funding to be able to bite off a large project. And the first large project that we bid off was the mill. And that's where $500,000 of that funding was expended. Additionally, the purchase of 512 Ash was another large purchase that our budget reserves helped to pay for. And now moving forward, we're looking at a large contribution for public improvements on the Brinkman project. So that's kind of how some of those projects, for the first several years, we did not have large projects like that identified. And so we saw a pretty large buildup of funds. And the board in recent years has very specifically said that money is intended to help generate activity within the DDA. So we want to invest it in projects wisely that will create activity, draw additional business, and I think you've seen that through our recent investments.
Just curious, because the budget had you at an ending balance of 15,000, but now your projection for 2019 is 635, so
Yeah.
obviously something.
Yeah, we had several things included in the Legion participation was estimated to come out of that. Additionally, there were no funds, haven't been any funds utilized in the Facade Improvement Program, so those funds rolled forward. So that's a portion of those funds, but ultimately the 2019 budget is where we would be at if we spent everything in our budget as identified.
Yeah.
And most years we're pretty studious with our funds and tend to have additional rollover.
I guess the other then question is on the revenue side, the bottom line, line 4376, transfer from the town. Obviously, in every year you're showing an actual transfer. You had a budget of 382, but in 2019 projected you have 0. And I'm guessing, in fact, it won't be 0.
No, I saw that, David.
There is money being transferred.
Right.
We just didn't pick it up in this version here.
Okay, so it's probably in the neighborhood of the 300 something.
Yes.
So does that then deem flow down? So the ending balance, in fact, will be higher?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Okay,
We
that's
will
what-
work on that and make sure that everything is
Yes.
flowing through correctly. Thank you.
Just a little thought, Dave's question about the facade. We've all probably been in communities. I was in one this summer that had a Bavarian theme. It's really cool. They bring in lots of money. And that's big scale, millions of dollars. Okay, every building had to be Bavarian, okay, which is really cool. But, you know, just on a smaller scale, with wayfinding sign, there might be some way that you can give an extra $500 or something, whatever, if the facade somehow tied into, if there's a theme to the wayfinding signs, or to the mill, or to the lake, so just throwing out, if there's some simple thing that kind of connects everything as part of downtown Windsor, and maybe it's an additional incentive on the facade. Well, I don't know what that is, I'm not an artist, but just, it doesn't have to be multi-millions of dollars.
Great. Yeah, I'll make sure to add that to our discussion as we're moving forward, to have the board kind of explore that concept and how we
Just a little idea.
might be able to put that into practice, so. All right, any additional questions?
Okay. Is that everything that you wanted to present this evening?
I believe so.
Okay, so no further questions for the DDA? Okay, well, thank you all for taking the time to be here this evening and presenting, and we'll move on and gear up for the Windsor Housing Authority discussion next.
Keep that in mind.
It'll take a few minutes.
Thank you.
Is this the one from the teacher? I'm gonna see the display out there. Display case hasn't changed for about a year. But if you think about what other elements we need to be able to put in there, maybe make that sticker on the box below that, I'll check in with whoever does that. And we'll put it in there with maybe a couple of other elements. Put a print stuff out on some authority. That's what I'll do.
Sounds great. I mean, we're.
Did you get my other email?
God, yesterday was crazy. Oh, no, I haven't.
I sent you a follow-up to our conversation.
To the memory lane one. I didn't even know what the name is today.
Well, I just signed him up for the next one. That's just, I know we hear that, but
Went to a thing in church the other
After about 12:30, and then about 25.
So we're all on for Thursday? Does that work?
Yeah, so is it Thursday? Is it this Thursday?
Yes.
God, it's okay. No, 11:45.
The kids are at school. It's kind of funny, Miles was there, so they said Miles.
we never have to talk about that. Thank you. Have a good evening.
We can hear it. He's right to life and kids.
Always, man.
Always.
I wasn't there.
You do the same.
I mean, that couldn't work good, I mean, but.
The mill is nice.
Who's presenting for the Windsor Housing Authority?
If that's appropriate,
Sure.
sure.
One of those things, I'm like.
All right, thank
I'm Darcy.
You're the
But every time my parents came down, right, you guys go there, like, there was one thing. So we don't
No, we are, yeah, we are. I'm
Ken, can you escort me?
Who's presenting for you guys? I'm talking. Nancy.
Yeah, go for it.
We still have, we still have a 50.
This is open now.
See you, Dean.
What, we found more money? I hope not less. It's less,
We'll just keep this budget.
Guess you were hungry.
Okay, that sounds good.
Impeccable style,
I know.
unexpected flavor.
I like the impeccable style.
See, it's only on our.
Oh, that may have older vocals.
Oh, guys.
They'll get a lot of those. Common. Clients over to.
I've been noticing your
A lot of stuff that has.
Thank you. Are you coming down to the meeting on Thursday? We'll see this.
They usually look at it like something. People
Thanks,
think
welcome.
about
Talk soon, man.
It's weird.
So do you guys want to sit over there now? Some mushroom? Yes,
Yeah, I
Well, that's why I
So we're over
My lot's over staffing. It's like 3.4 something. I think I
Technology is, yes, it's great when it's working.
Light behind us in the backyard. I'm gonna make that tea. Thank you, sir.
What if I could get in? You have to line up at 3:30.
No kidding.
Yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It opens at 4 o'clock every day and there's a line up the side.
Yeah,
I love it.
but I think they're gonna wanna come back before us.
I think that's it too.
It was like 3 years ago.
A week ago.
It's almost time.
It's a 5-year plan.
It has been, I think they have 2 remaining.
Yeah, busy. I mean, just all this stuff.
Good. You should. It's real.
Okay, so I think we're ready now, and so it looks like we have Nancy Salzar, is that correct? She's going to kick us off on the next item and lead us into the Windsor Housing Authority discussion.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I'm Nancy Salazar. I'm from the Windsor Housing Authority Board, and I wanted to also, there's several board members here from Windsor Housing Authority. We have Jose Valdez, we have Chris Melson, and we have
Frankie Summer.
Frankie left. Frankie Cole. I wanted to introduce you to everyone because we're a very new board. And so we're really excited. We all bring our own pieces and experience, and this is fabulous. We've got some great ideas from the board members, and so we really are excited about moving forward and where we're going. So with that said, I wanted to touch base a little bit first about the history and the developments that the Windsor Housing Authority Board have currently that are completed. The first one is Century 3. It was built in 1968. Can you believe that? That was a long time ago. If I do the math, it's about 52 years.
78 minutes.
78?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was giving it an extra 10 years.
It's okay, it's a long time.
It's not been on the board for a long time.
With that said, it's been for a very, very long
Board
time.
historian there.
It has about
Then you know.
72 units, and it is geared more for our senior and our disabled residents. Our second development is Windsor Meadows. It was done in 1 and 2 phases. It's a total of 80 units. There's no age restriction. However, it does serve households with incomes of between the 30 to 60% AMI, area median income. So here, I wanted to give a little information about our waiting list. And so we thought it was very crucial to provide you some information about knowing that we have a couple of developments and how many units we have existing. But also I think it's very important that we provide you the information about our waiting list. We do have some statistics regarding the Windsor Meadows and the 1 and 2. And we have about 433 households on the wait list. Now that's everybody. That's including elderly, near elderly, income levels, about 433 applications that are on our waiting list. That's a lot.
Are they all Windsor folks, or, because I know some of our folks come from outside the area to apply for some of these?
They're not. They're including others from the surrounding areas.
So the 433 includes, whoever?
Whoever,
Okay.
correct, exactly. And so what we looked at is we see that there's about 99% or 99 people, 23% of that applicant or that amount is people that are 62 years and older. And we also have, that's on the waiting list, and we have 96 people who are near elderly, which are close to the 62 age. And so with that said, if we take a look at that, I mean, that's almost 200 people that are on a waiting list for seniors. So along those lines and along that information, we also realized that there is a need for senior housing. And I want to make it more exciting than what I'm making it sound like. This really is a good thing. I mean, with the development that we just heard about, I mean, it's people that will be coming into and current residents that are waiting to have a home and that's affordable for them, but also to be able to enjoy all of the things that we just heard about in the previous presentation, the businesses, what Windsor's becoming. It's a great place, as a resident myself, a great place to live, and to be able to have the opportunity for our seniors to enjoy all the amenities that are here and that are also coming in the future. With that said, we felt that there was a need, and so our newest proposed project development is called the Golden Meadows. It's geared for senior housing. We have phase 1, which is 52 units. The cost, the development budget for that is $19.1 million. Phase 2 is 38 units. The total budget is going to be separate, as well as the phase 3 for 33 units. That will have a separate budget for those two phases. This is an idea of what this looks like. It's going to be on Guardian and 15th. So the first phase is drawn out here. Let's see if I can get this little clicker here. So up here we can see if I'm standing too close. Nope, that could work. So the phase 1 you'll see over towards the Guardian Drive, and then we'll come down to the area. So there's a cutoff. So the phase 1 that we're talking about tonight is listed here on the screen. And so again, that's going to have a separate budget, development budget of $19 million. Any questions so far?
When's phase 1 start?
Good question. So I also have Darcy McClure here from the Loveland Housing Authority. We have a development agreement with Loveland Housing to help us with the construction. And so I'll have her help me out a little bit here
Sure.
with the timeframes.
So our current plan is to apply to the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority in February for low-income housing tax credits, which would finance about 70 to 75% of the cost of the development. So if we were successful in getting an award of those tax credits, we could start construction as early as January 2021.
Nancy, sorry.
Yes, no, please.
Just looking at your cover letter, you were referencing the construction cost, I think, of 19.6 million or 19.1 something. That's just for phase 1, right?
Correct.
And that is a total development cost, which
Right,
includes
beyond
construction and architects and engineers,
Developer fee.
financing, developer fee, lots of other things beyond construction. But yes, construction's the bulk of that cost.
And if I can, when I looked at the schematic given your letter, it's the perimeter of buildings, it says not included in phase 1, but I'm guessing that those are all actually phase 3. They're not included in phase 2 either.
Correct.
Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, so those are phase 3. Thank you.
So we're in the design piece of the project, and so the board had an opportunity, the Windsor Housing Authority Board had an opportunity to take a look at different schemes. We have looked at this lark bunting scheme, so ask me where that comes from. Please don't, because I have no idea. But the, obviously they come up with these fabulous phrases and all that, but the board did decide regarding the lark, picked the lark bunting scheme. It's more neutral colors, so we'll have, and this includes the first, second phases of the project. And so again, the color schemes are more of grays, darker colors, which we thought would kind of fit very nicely. Now, the development I do want to add, it's a high quality development, and so It would fit very nice within that area. We're wanting to ensure that it really also not just good for the residents, but also making it look really nice within the area of the acreage that we picked. So again, this is an idea of what that would look like with the first and the second phase. And here's another image of the first and second phase.
Nancy, I do have a question.
Sure.
Going back to the property schematic. Easements on 15th Street for future traffic. We don't have anybody from planning here, but if in the event 15th Street were widened, is there sufficient easement there? Or do we have right of way?
So yes,
Do we?
Yes, I believe we do,
The
and we're
town has
working
a
through that
right.
with we're working with the town
Okay, I
right now
assumed
to,
that.
in
I
the
just wanted
planning.
to-
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
and so with that said, I'm going to ask the Windsor Housing Authority Board if there's any more information that you would like to add. What we would like to, at the end of this discussion, is have an opportunity to hear from the Town of Windsor Board to get ideas, your feedback, because ultimately, you know, we are requesting, as we've had some help with the Windsor Meadows development, a waiver of some development fees. And so we are asking for roughly about $652,000. And again, normally in the Windsor Meadows, we did receive some assistance from the town board. The goal here is to get some ideas and feedback from the board to find out what more information you would like to hear, what would you need from us, that way we could provide that information to help you make your decision.
Can you go back to that chart or that slide then that showed the fee estimate?
That's right.
And because my question, and then Paul, no, I guess it's not in the, it's in our packet. There's
Breaks
two.
down the
Okay.
Yeah, was it?
items in the fee waiver.
Yeah,
It's not in the slide deck.
maybe it might not be in your, yeah, it was part of the packet, it was like the third.
There you go.
That was it, yeah.
There you go, right. Is what's highlighted in yellow not included? I'm gonna guess, because we generally don't provide.
So it's the raw
I don't
water.
even think my glasses will help with that slide.
Only what's on the right column is included.
Binoculars maybe.
Okay,
We got it on.
I know, yeah.
So it's the raw water for $1 million?
yeah, so it's, yeah, so Dr. Jones answered, there's the,
In
Right
the
there.
bottom one is used to.
yeah, okay.
Units.
Those items are not asking for.
How many total units is this? 100 and, all three phases?
123, if for all three phases.
How many units are in the meadows?
So there's 80 units in the meadow.
What was the total fees waived for the meadows?
So it was approximately 480,000 that were waived.
The total budget for the Meadows was 19.4. So you had 80 units for 19.4. Now here you have 52 units for 19.1 now. Construction cost and time.
Well, and there's no approximation for phase 2 or phase 3 yet?
No.
And your letter says that WHA is requesting waivers for phase 1 only,
Correct.
which I guess means when you get to phase 2, you'll ask for waivers then too. Or does this mean you're asking for phase 1 only and you won't be asking for phase 2? I wasn't sure how to read that sentence.
Right, and so we would be asking, right now, we're asking for phase 1 only because that's
The one
the one that we're
in play.
working on.
It's not to be read that you're.
Not to be read that
now,
it's the
not-
only and.
Well, but
that's it.
there's an adjustment there, so is the ask for the 454, is the adjustment to the 52 because the totality is the 651.8?
That's why I was confused.
Or what is the
If
adjustment
I
for?
can just add in,
Yeah.
because it's not clear, the adjusted to reflect 52 units, the raw water number of
water,
$1,075,000, that's what the town engineer had told us for 123 units.
Oh, I
But for
see.
52 units, we would owe $454,000 based on the current
That's just raw
in
water.
lieu fee.
Okay.
And they're not asking for
So
that.
you'd be asking for the
I saw that,
454?
yeah,
No,
No.
they're not asking for raw water waiver.
They're asking
Well,
for-
no, but
they're asking
what's the
for 651.
454, 740 then?
That's the
It's
amount of water we would owe, not the million.
That's if they,
Oh,
that's
okay, I
if you were
gotcha.
asking for water.
The million is the whole.
Can we zoom in?
Oh, I see.
Here's the
Yeah.
star, the asterisk.
I see. That's what I lost,
Good
was
catch.
was the asterisk.
I missed it too.
Okay.
I was just trying to get my numbers straight.
That big question.
That's good.
Oh, yay.
Okay, that makes sense. Holly, you had a question? Or
I
was
already
your
got it out, then I'll
I have a
answer.
question.
Okay,
So I know these are age restricted, but how is it, the rent, is it some sort of, is there limited rent, or will it be more than Century 3? How does that fit in the marketplace?
You want me to take that? So the rents are based on area median income.
Okay.
And within the pro forma, there's a certain number of units, and I can't tell you off the top of my head what they are, but at different income levels, 40, 50, 60%. And those are calculated every year from the actual area median income for Weld County. Shaffa publishes new income levels every year and then new maximum rents
So
based on that.
On top of the age restriction, there will also be the AMI spectrum of
Correct.
rents charged. So would it be higher than Century 3, because it's a much newer building? Do they factor that in?
Yes, it would be, it's not because of the age of the building, it's because of how it's funded. Century 3 is a direct subsidy program from USRD, which requires ongoing subsidy every year. But the tax credit program, there's the initial investment up front from a tax credit investor that provides, as Darcy said, about 75% of the equity for this project. Ultimately, that reduces in much less debt, about 20% loan to value, and that's how the rents are able to support the property.
Hey,
So
Miles,
the property is self-sufficient without
So-
subsidy.
and the rents are mandated. So if it's a tax credit deal, here's your rent. Now, because it's a percentage of AMI,
Right.
if AMI goes up next year or down,
Right.
the rents will go with it. And,
And that's different than Century 3.
yeah.
Right.
Because-
Century 3, they pay 30% of their income, and then the subsidy pays the difference.
Nancy, even though construction wouldn't start till 2021, you're asking for these waivers now for the purpose of your application, correct? And this will all factor into, how much the town is willing to contribute will factor into your overall application.
Yes, so the tax credits are very competitive, especially the 9% that we can apply for in February. They're available once a year. Roughly 1/3 of the projects that are submitted get funded every year. And one of the first things they look for is town, municipality commitments in the project to be competitive.
Yeah.
And so without the fee waivers, we would probably wait a year.
and this is a submittal you want to do sometime, and you said January or February, is that the
February 1st
application?
is the due date.
Okay.
The one
Okay.
time in 2020 that we can apply.
I had a question, and I'm going back in my memory, but now regarding sewer. And so this is going back to when I was a liaison a year and a half ago, whatever. If my memory serves me correct, our planning department said that the existing sewer infrastructure was sufficient to handle phase one. And I think all three phases, what I heard here.
Right.
Yeah, so I can take that one if you want.
Okay.
That was our,
I'm looking for,
Develop open that up.
on the fee waivers is where I'm going back with this, okay?
yes.
Go ahead.
And so the short story is that it's in the approved development plan, that the number of units is limited to what Nancy described, as long as those are all senior units. If we decided to redevelop that property as multifamily,
It'd be different.
it'd be different.
Right.
And then there
That's why
would
we
be a
don't do-
capacity
okay.
issue
And the same thing with the water TIF?
for water.
Public
Yeah.
improvement fee.
Yeah, the fee for water.
Correct.
If I remember right, there was sufficient infrastructure already in
Yes.
place. That's right, okay.
Yep.
Um, and there's no need to have a park.
Correct.
Okay, so that,
Okay,
Okay,
other questions? Yeah, David?
Dean, can you refresh my memory on all these? So, what I'm looking at, it says on the raw water, and we're still at 50/50, aren't we? We didn't switch off.
I think we're planning to go, if we have not already, very soon go to the
All cash.
cash, yes.
Do you know if this raw water estimate at 1.075 adjusted to 454 is just the cash portion?
Yes, I'm fairly
Probably.
certain it is.
So they still need to bring, currently, they still need to bring half the water.
If we're, I remember John talking about, he wanted to go to 100% cash sooner than later. Whether we've actually done that now
Yeah,
is, I'm not certain.
yeah, I don't remember that we
we
did.
have not.
We have to vote on it, I
No, we
think.
haven't voted on it.
No,
Right.
right.
Right. We're talking-
So on the water PIF, the fee that would be collected from any developer, where does that go? Is that into specifically it's the water fund?
That's the physical tap. The raw water is either water shares or cash in lieu.
Right,
The water PIF, much like the sewer PIF, is the actual tap into our system.
but those funds, once received, go into the water fund?
Yes,
And are they earmarked specifically to be used for infrastructure?
yes.
So other pipes, other improvements of the water infrastructure?
Yes, I think it says specifically we can only use the PIF for expanding our system. To just take an aging water pipe out of the ground and replace it, we have to use that in our O&M costs.
Okay.
Yeah,
And same for the sewer PIF?
yes,
So that's expansion as well?
yes.
Because if I remember right, the sewer fund was getting close to its reserve balance. It was, I believe, the weakest fund we had.
Oh, no, that's the drainage fund, storm drainage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the sewer fund balance is in pretty good shape.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, in the years to come, we're probably gonna require more capacity at the plant over that severance treatment thing.
Well, I think we are going to the second line anyway, right?
What's that?
We're going out to the second line already. We're gonna
Yes.
go. Obviously parks, so the drainage fund, again, they're asking us to waive that, but that's the fund that is
Is the weakest.
weakest.
Yeah.
And then, of course, parks. Should we let Eric vote on this? I mean, it's a significant dollar amount, right? So it's not so much, and I don't see it, Ken, you said there's no need for a park in this facility, but that's not how
But
we're
we can use
thinking
the
about
money
the
elsewhere
park.
for it, I got you.
It's really it's a significant amount, and we make that up somewhere when we have a project need. Okay,
Well,
well,
don't forget that the water and sewer PIFs add up to $191,000, so, which has to go towards our infrastructure, which we're talking about waiving in this scenario, so. We know we don't waive raw water is what we're talking about.
Right.
You're not gonna worry.
Are there other questions?
Do
Dr.
we
Jones?
backfill that when we waive, do we backfill the water and sewer funds when we waive these?
We did with the,
Okay.
that economic
From general
development fund that we started a
Water
couple
and sewer
years
fund.
ago. The one that Stacy manages. We just started that a couple years ago, but we keep it at 200,000, so,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
you can see those are more than 200,000.
Right.
I know the road impact fee, we always have to, if we waive that, which I don't recall that we ever did, because I don't think we're allowed to. Just that's how we wrote it in the enabling.
Okay, Mr. McCarver?
The impact fees that we pour into the enterprises if we waive them, if we don't collect them, we still have to make the fund right, make the pot right. So we backfill what we waive in impact fees, for
From
plan
general fund?
investment fees, water and sewer plan investment fees, storm sewer, and that park fee. Those are all impact fees that we would have to pay.
From general fund then.
Correct.
And
Could come
we-
from our capital budget?
Come from operating. I'm no
But-
accountant, that's a
But,
dean.
but this one need to come out of that budget till, I mean, even if we approved to waive them this year, we would need to take it out of our budget till, when would we take it out? In 2021, when they start construction?
When they-
2021.
When they get the permit, yeah.
So we have plenty of time to accommodate that budget. Because this is a large number. This is a significant number, and I think it does give us pause to give serious consideration. However, I think what they're looking for this evening, or what our folks here, our acting town manager, is looking for is direction from us. And as somebody who instigated this project to even happen, I am very supportive of this, because when we started working with the Windsor Housing Authority 10 years ago with that board, when I was here, the one thing that we started on and the need that came out of our community first and foremost was the workforce housing, which then we put together, and it's up and running. But the very next thing that we directed the Windsor Housing Authority to do, I said I wanted to see senior housing, because at many of the times that I spent as coffee with the mayor, even before I was mayor, at coffee with the mayor, number one thing I was hearing from our senior citizens is we need a place. We need an expansion of a place. So I think, this is a cost, but it is a cost to look at who our benefactor is. And I think don't we give a precedent to Windsor citizens first and foremost to be able to participate? And I think we've done a great job at that. So it's benefiting our very own senior citizens who currently work and reside here, so,
Well, and I would concur with the mayor. I happen to have quite a few clients that live in Century 3, and a lot that have tried to get into Century 3. And I want to say that at one point, I don't know what the wait list is now at Century 3 for senior housing, but I want to say it was up to 2 years to get in. The wait list is huge. The amount of time to be able to get in, I don't know what it is today, but I know that there's a large amount of people that are
Right, so right now, we have about 66 applications currently. So, with that said, it may not seem like a big number, but it really is. And so that's why, wanting to.
Well, how many a year come off that list? 3?
Yeah, maybe. But that list has been as high as 300. Correct.
It's been hundreds.
I mean, it's been several times higher than that. I think the other thing that the board has demonstrated in the 10 years that I have, while I have not served on the board, but while I have seen and been part of that board, is they've been very prudent with the financial resources. The entire board is a volunteer board based. And so I think if anything, they have, shown that they have done, they take their fiscal responsibility, I think, very seriously. And I don't think they would be asking for this amount if it wasn't something that was needed to make the project workable.
I agree.
They performed.
I agree, and something Dr. Jones, you said in a previous meeting that kind of stuck with me is this is a commitment made by past boards before I was here, so I want to honor that. I think that's something that this board and past boards have been wanting to do for a long time, and if we build it, they will come. I mean, that's not going to be a worry. But it brings us one step closer to that self-sufficiency for the housing authority as well, and a big step forward as far as that goes. And so I'm on board.
Well, and I don't know if it was one of our strategic planning initiatives from a year and a half ago, but I know it was 3.5 years ago that affordable housing was one of our by previous boards like Barry was talking about, so.
Yeah, I'm of course supportive of it. I want to point out too, the quality of the design and construction has been impressive, and even going back to Century 3, when they were looking at replacing cabinets, the quality of what was built in 78, when the contractor said is better than what you can replace it with today. So I mean, and going through Windsor Meadows, the quality, the solar paneling, not just the aesthetics, but the quality of construction. We're not building, I'm gonna say slum, but we're not building trashy places.
Right.
Trashy slum, okay, I said it.
Right.
I do have a question about the 139. Dean, you said we cannot waive the road impact fee?
The road impact fee? Yes, we have not in the past.
We have to make it whole, though.
We can't waive it, but we can backfill.
I think we can we, Ian?
That's-
You can waive it, but if you waive an impact fee, you have to back.
We're gonna fill
Okay,
it.
just like the
That's
water
true of all
pit
of
and the
them.
sewer pit, okay, I just want to be clear on that,
Yeah.
okay,
So you're gonna have a $650,000 hit to your general fund.
right, we got 650,000,
Because we're gonna backfill all of that.
right,
Right.
yeah.
Significant,
Yeah. Yeah, it is, but I
It
think,
is.
I think what you have to look at is, it is an investment
It's
in
investment.
our community,
Right.
in the long run as well. I mean, it's the one place that helps keep those folks still in their own place and space before moving on to a true retirement facility that needs care and that costs twice as much
Yes.
for everybody in your community, so.
Can I ask the Windsor Housing Authority Board as a whole? I know, because like I said, I've been in the Century 3 apartments, and to go off of what Ken was just saying, they're made with brick and they're very energy efficient. Obviously, we don't make completely brick, structures today, but they're very energy efficient, both in heat and cold situations. Because I've been in there and they keep them nice and warm, and they, but they're very energy efficient because of the materials that they're made from. But then the Meadows has the solar panels, which is again energy efficient, measures that were involved. What's planned with the Golden Meadows as far as, is it gonna have solar, is it gonna have, other energy efficient, materials that are used, et cetera? I don't know, I'm just trying to add extra value to the project.
You want me to take it?
Sure.
So at a minimum, we would adhere to the Enterprise Green Communities standards, which prescribes a certain amount of energy efficiency. For the solar panels, we would love to do that on every project. Truthfully, at the time for both Phase 1 and Phase 2, Excel had some very good incentives to both put the panels up and also for 20 years, we get reduced rates from the electricity generated off of that. Those programs are gone, but at other properties in Loveland, we've been able to use energy tax credits, and that's something we would look to do. At this point, they're not designed in, but if the opportunity was there, we would certainly do that.
Okay.
I agree with the mayor. I mean, I've been on 8 years now, we've chartered the Windsor Housing Authority to look at senior housing, and it's been a big priority for the board, so I support this. It's a huge number, but it's really important to the community, so.
And I'm a little bit biased, but I would encourage you all to look at it too. 600,000 is a big number, especially when you have to backfill it from that. We understand that, but in return, it's a $19 million investment in Windsor
that we will have in our
That will-
community for many years to
The
come.
$650,000 gets leveraged into.
Well, which I'm assuming, maybe it goes without saying, but maybe we ought to put it out there that we'd be trying to use local contractors, et cetera, which would be helping the Windsor economy at the same time. Maybe we don't know that definitively now, but, with bidding and everything else, but I would hope that we would try to find.
The other thing, if we approve this and we know that dollar amount, we can prepare for that. We could even maybe split it over two budgets. You have a 2020 budget, you could do half, and a 2021, so you wouldn't have to have such a big hit in one single year or something. I mean, that would be Dean, he's a finance whiz, he could figure it out.
Get out the checkbook, Dean. Dean, just get out the checkbook.
And I think too, one of the cool things I thought in one of the earlier meetings is just how they're designed for seniors too. I think from the ease of doing laundry and just all the little things that are kind of brought into it. It's very well thought out.
And I think another kudo for the Windsor Housing Authority is the way they work with the neighbors too, because I know the neighborhood there had concerns. When you hear low-income housing, you picture something that's less in quality. So that's why I want to make the point that, you know, in the past, it's been really quality instruction. The studies are good, the long-term quality is good, so.
Well, and to go on to that
That's
too,
exactly-
Ken, I know a lot of people that live in Winshire that were concerned,
Yeah.
but when they heard this was seniors living,
Seniors,
it
the
completely
landscaping,
changed,
the
completely
buffer.
changed their,
Right, it really did.
yep.
The seniors generally don't have a lot of wild parties, although some of
So I
us,
see, so how,
some of us have been known to do that.
so how does this appear to us then? Does this come as a resolution or the form, or we would take it up as a resolution on an upcoming board agenda?
Probably. It would depend on how the housing authority wants us to frame it so that they can use it when they go see Challenge.
We would really appreciate the resolution that really makes it solid. Chaffel would see that as a solid commitment.
Because then we would be able to include it within the application, and that would make our application stronger.
Okay,
So
because
we have
I'm
a
seeing,
form.
I'm sensing there's a consensus, minus maybe one.
You have a majority.
So to
It might
maybe
pass,
move
it
forward,
might
so,
pass.
I think what we would do is direct you to work directly with these folks to figure out how that needs to come back before us, so that it gets approved in a timely manner, so that you have it ready to go for your application by February.
We
And then
have a
just-
format, a model for it that we did in the past that should work.
Okay.
in
So-
whatever form you need.
So would the backfilling be on the CIP budget? Is that where it would?
General fund.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Well, we would, some of it would come out of the CIP, but I think, I don't know that we necessarily have to take it out of the general fund. I think we can take it, I'll double check, but I think we can take some out of the capital improvement fund, for these kind of projects, but I will double check it, but we could do it over 2 years, to soften the blow. I mean, we could do it over as many years as you choose, actually,
And if there's anything, and I know with the time constraints, but if there's any information that you believe would be helpful, it sounds like there is a consensus, but if there's any information, anything that you want, we want to be as transparent as possible. So please let us know, and we'll work with the staff to determine the next step.
Okay. Well,
Can
thank you.
I ask one
Thank you.
other thing really quick? Would these fees be paid and then reimbursed after, is that the way that they would be handled, or just completely?
It's not collected. It's not collected.
Probably something of this size in order to help their project. It would be more of a book entry on our side.
Oh, okay.
If it was a smaller project, we've been having people pay them and then we reimburse
Right.
them, but this is, fairly sizable.
Okay, just didn't- the reason I asked is because I was going, like you said, over as many years. I was only thinking, well, what if they, this was at the very end of the project, that could be into 2023 or something like that before the project is, ready to open or, and that's where I was trying to think of if it could be staggered out, if it would be reimbursing or if it was just a journal entry, so.
I'm gonna ask a
That was
question.
the only reason I was asking.
This was about housing authority staffing.
Okay. Very quickly, because we need to move on to the other item
Right,
then, just
absolutely.
because I know there is another event this evening that some of us.
While you're here, I've heard that you may be looking at hiring a full-time maintenance person. Is that correct?
What?
The housing authority is looking at hiring a full-time maintenance person?
Maintenance person, correct.
Is that correct?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
For Century 3, that's one of our key short-term focuses is maintenance of the
Would
Century.
that be for just Century 3 or also Windsor Meadows?
For now, just
For now,
Century.
Century
Just
3.
three.
Meadows maintained by Loveland.
Windsor Meadows is,
Windsor Meadows is maintained by Loveland.
Okay.
What
Okay.
need for maintenance is Century 3.
For Century 3. Okay. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, folks. Thanks for joining us this evening.
If I were to vote in favor, can I get invited to the party you guys are
What party?
And do you guys have to put up a copy of the company, so
10 years now, then that would all be
Build an elevated park.
Right. Right, because then the investor would be in 100%.
In charge, fifth story.
Are you guys putting up a presentation as well?
You do, let me give you my cards.
Thank you. Yeah. Can I?
You can leave the blueberries.
Thank you.
That's what it says on my AARP. My wife turned 58. Signed her up. I'm only 49. I wasn't quite old enough, but just being married to an older woman, I got my card. My AARP.
I won't take my card from
What's that?
I won't take my card from AARP.
I've got it.
I don't like that.
I don't know. It was more of a joke. It's a $20 joke coming up with positions. I haven't looked at it. What discounts?
Oh, I'm sure it's still good.
It's close
Hey,
enough.
you can get a discount, you can get 25 cents off a couple of bucks.
I haven't looked at my discounts yet. I just feel like I'm gonna be fun. I put it in my
I want a
wallet.
discount.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next item. And looks like Crystal's gonna, after she passes this out, is gonna talk to us about redistricting.
So colorful, Crystal.
Thanks to Scott.
I noticed you weren't on there.
You're not on there.
I saw that. Yeah. Dr. Jones has,
Just like that.
his last name's been on there.
Yeah, I know. You guys.
It's making an assumption.
Miles who? Miles who? You're not even on there.
You'll miss me when I'm gone.
It'll be great since you guys are looking to get out of here tonight.
Okay, she's speaking, folks, come on.
So the Windsor Town Charter requires the town clerk's office to review the registered electors in each district at least 180 days prior to the regular election. So in August, I requested the voter registration list from Larimer and Rome County. And in reviewing those, it was determined that our registered electors were out of the 85% rule that our charter calls out for us to be in compliance with. So then I started working with Scott Tomatich and Ian on coming up with a plan on how we were going to redraw those boundaries to bring all of our districts in compliance. Some of the things that we needed to keep in mind when doing that is each district needed to be contiguous, and we couldn't change the boundaries of a district to create a vacancy on the town board. So that's why one of the maps has, or the draft map has some names and of the people, of the town board members that are still currently holding seats, and that's why some of the other names aren't on it. So when looking at the numbers, District 3 on the old map had a total of 4,774 registered electors. And doing the math, 85% of that is 4,057. So that pulled all of our districts out of compliance. With the revised map, we have pulled everybody back in. So we moved some of the lines around. I believe Paul's district was moved up a little bit above Main Street. District 6 was moved a little bit south. District 3 was moved a little bit north. So we just kind of played with those lines to kind of make sure that all the numbers fit together. The largest district we have, and I apologize, there is an error in the memo that was sent in the packet. It had the largest district being 3771. Actually, the largest district, that was a typo. So the largest district is District 6 with 3735 registered voters. And the smallest is District 2 with 3,382. So using the 85% formula, all of our districts are within those two numbers.
So you'd have to take into account any like future growth, like rain dance?
Right.
Or do we just have to, you just have to look at next go around?
We did a little bit, considering District 3 had a big boom in population, as well as District 2. Those numbers are kind of at the lower end of that 85%, so there is some room for growth there.
Yeah, I noticed that, thanks.
It's kind of a bummer on the timing that this is all being done before the census and stuff. Is this when, you know, is this norm? I mean, obviously it's every 4 years according to what charter and stuff, but I'm just saying it's kind of a bummer we're doing this and instituting it right before, I mean, literally months before we, you know, have our every 10-year census, so.
We review it.
Because it's the census numbers that we use on this, or is it actual?
It's actual voter registration numbers.
Okay.
And we review it every 180 days before every election, but we can't redistrict more than every 6 years. So if we were in compliance, then, you know, we wouldn't be redistricting right now.
When did we last redistrict?
2013.
So the fact that we were out of compliance last election invalidates our results, so.
It's been
Where
fun.
are you and Paul, or one of you two? We're not really here.
So this will go into effect at the next election, correct?
It will. So we'll have the first reading of the ordinance October 28th, the second reading November 28th, and then 10 days past the second reading of the ordinance, it goes into effect, so December 9th.
So do we consider ourselves on December 9th to have new constituents?
Yes.
Congratulations. Even though your name's not on the map.
Our condolences.
Just looking at 3 and 4, and just trying to dividing lines that make sense to the public. That section, just running Main Street, if that went from 4 back to 3, that reduces 4, increases 3.
It reduced 3.
Would increase 3, reduce 4. See what I'm talking about, that orange section right above Main Street?
Or
Yeah.
5, that's 5.
Or 5, I'm sorry, that's 5. Okay.
Yeah, I lose
I'm
when
going to
I
make
do
this
it.
assumption that maybe we didn't do that because the canal there is kind of natural break.
Yes.
That's one thing. Also, the ridge in Harmony is growing, so we're anticipating 3 growing, just like we're anticipating 2 growing.
Correct.
Is that my understanding the logic?
Yeah.
The thinking behind this, okay.
That was part of what we were
Okay.
thinking when we were playing with the
Okay.
numbers and boundaries.
It's real- go ahead.
I mean, without seeing the numbers, and it really doesn't matter, but in District 3, there's, along with Ken's idea to keep neighborhoods kind of together,
Yeah,
that piece just east of 257 south of the canal, where the District 3 kind of dives down, would that be something we could, I'm just, again,
Just
thinking,
east-
keep the neighbors together, it's,
right east side of the lake there, but it's east of 257. That's just looking at natural boundaries that are easy to explain to the public.
And we were keeping you in your
Yeah.
district as well.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
You could have moved me down, yeah.
right.
Or you could have moved me out.
I mean, if you wanted to move,
Can you lose any part of your kitchen sink?
No, but
Oops.
I did have a constituent call that was on the east side of 3rd Street and said, now I'm standing on the west side, so now you can talk to me, Paul, where I'm on the east side, I have to talk to Dr. Dunn, so.
Yeah.
It can happen where you could be across the street and be in a different district, so,
No.
I mean,
it could happen, yeah.
it does, I mean, like Dr.
Well, that's what had happened.
Well,
At
3.
at first, 3rd Street was all encompassed by 4.
Mhm.
The last
Right.
election, it was only on the west side. The east side wasn't anymore. And now I can't tell with what this is.
Well, like you're now gonna be in Dr. Jones' district as of
Right.
Yeah,
December
that's
9th,
what
you're
I
gonna
look
be in
like.
Dr.
Yeah, it
Jones'
looks like
district.
now it's completely out.
And he picks up, we pick up Village East.
Interesting.
I think it looks like you did a nice job.
I did too.
can't imagine
I'm just seeing the
how many
numbers.
times I had to draw and redraw.
Scott he did a lot of moving around and playing with some numbers.
So maybe Ken hit on this, but If District 3 and District 2, the new proposed District 3 and District 2, would be growing still at an exponential rate compared to the other districts, are we gonna wait another 6 years to do it? I mean, because we could do it sooner, right, is what we're saying? We could do it 4 years from now if those, if Raindance is completely built out for, huh?
2 years. You look at it every 2
We
years.
do it every 180 days in advance of every municipal election.
Oh, okay.
We do a check-in, and if we can live with the ratios, the 85% rule, we leave it alone. But if we have to adjust, then we adjust.
Okay.
Even though it says you can't change it every 6 years, it says you can't change it unless it's necessary to maintain constitutional compliance. So we try not to every 6 years, but sometimes we have to, depending on growth patterns.
Yeah.
So it's every 2 years.
I think it's amazing you got it as close as you did with trying to draw lines. And I think they're reasonable given some natural boundaries, some street.
Yeah, just, it's hard to explain to people, but in some ways it's,
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
So we will, Kim Emo will work on putting an ordinance together that matches what we did the last time we did this, and we'll just adopt the new map, and there are some other clauses in it that I can't recall right now.
Do we have to notify people?
No. The notification of the meeting is.
Because some people, I remember, I believe last time, and just bad luck, I guess, they got moved out of a district that was coming up for vote, so they didn't really get a vote for their representative, but I guess that's just.
Yeah, and Miles, I remember that, and I think what we decided at that time was, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily always going to be the same people. You know, it's not like we're gonna move the lines to keep that finish line from getting farther away from them. So it happens, but the idea is to bring all of the districts into that tolerance as closely as we can based on registered electors.
Yeah, because it was the folks in steeplechase, I think, got districted out, so they missed an election.
Oh, I see what you're
I
saying.
see, yeah.
They're not moving this time, so, or last time.
Someone
so-
else might.
Yeah.
And that happens.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
relevant,
these neighborhoods are gonna be in a non-building district.
not relevant to the conversation, but I can't help when I look at the map. And I know that this area down in 6, that looks like an enclave, is not an enclave because of the little strip of land. But there's one where Bennett is. Is that not an enclave, or is it?
That is.
I see what you're saying, the area north of Maine that would now be in mind, they're not gonna have an election because I'm not up in April. and- yeah.
They're stuck with you, man.
But they're not gonna get to
They could've
vote
said vote
for,
with me, but
they're
now
gonna
they're
go
stuck.
that 4 years without having a vote, though, I mean,
Right.
that's gonna be
Right.
the.
Right.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we have Well County dinner's Wednesday night, 6 to 8. They're not requesting a spring dessert this year, is that,
No, they did not.
okay?
You can still bring your collection.
No, don't share.
Something less to have to do.
I will miss that, I most likely miss that, Mayor.
When's
Have
that?
you
We're gonna
ever,
be
This Wednesday or next?
out of town.
It's this Wednesday.
You said this one.
this Wednesday, yep,
It's actually,
this Wednesday.
oh wait, no,
I
no,
did
no,
too.
no, it is.
Yeah.
I didn't think
It's
of
the
it.
It
30th. It's
shows
the 30th.
Barry, Paul, myself,
Yes,
and
the
Doc
30th.
Jones going.
It's
30th.
a week from Wednesday.
It's the 30th, no, I didn't think.
Oh,
of
I'm
it.
sorry, yes, I said this Wednesday.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
it's
will
next
I
week.
will be
Yeah,
there.
I'll be
There
there.
is a Lerner County, though, it's a thank you dinner, but maybe that's,
Maybe, thank you.
oh, okay.
No, it's,
You'll take it.
Must be something else.
We were invited for the behavioral policy committee. I think it's a thank you dinner for people that serve on the different Lerner County boards and commissions. That's this Wednesday, and then Wells
Okay,
next Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah. Are you going, so you're out of town next Wednesday?
This Wednesday.
Oh, so you,
So I will be there next Wednesday.
oh, okay. So you might make sure, let's see,
I'll bring some.
add him to the list for the Well County, Sislowski. I don't see him on here, and he said he can go. Okay?
I'll bring kibasa and sauerkraut.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it then. That concludes our work session this evening. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody wants some more?